Okay, so I gave in. I got a VPN and I finally watched Beauty and the Beast. Hello, darlings, and welcome to Performance Perspective, where we watch different performances and then we give our perspectives. Now, don't forget to subscribe and like this video because today we are talking about the 30th anniversary of Beauty and the Beast that was shown on ABC. I'm not going to lie, on TikTok I made fun of it because in my head I thought it was going to be something similar to Little Mermaid. And what they did where they play the movie and then they have performances that happen in between. If you're not from Los Angeles, one of my favorite places is Hollywood Bowl. And so what I thought was, they're doing it exactly like a Hollywood Bowl, which I love. And what they do is they play the movie, but what makes it so special is you have a live orchestra. You have different celebrities coming out and singing. So yes, you're watching the movie, but because it's live, you are enjoying the ambiance of it all. Like even watching this movie and you're seeing the sunset, it's beautiful. But to have that translate on screen, I was thinking, I don't know about this. Well, let me just say, I am absolutely wrong. So right when Beauty and the Beast started, I thought, okay, they're just going to come in when a song happened. So the opening, they have the interpretation of the Beast, his story of how he turned into the Beast. And so right away I was like, oh, this is really cool. And they have the whole opening and I was sucked in. They cut into the narrator that comes in and she talks about the 30th anniversary and how for us to enjoy this production is to look at it from an artist creating this movie, like starting from the pen. I thought this was genius because instead of, wow, we're watching a musical, we're watching this production, it's almost like a celebrating learning experience for us. So when the opening of Belle happened, we saw her come in and I actually don't know much about her. All I know is that she is a pop star and she plays guitar, and I'm so happy that this introduced her to me because now I'm like, I want to know more of her music and her art and stuff. I loved her version of Belle. I think that's what makes Belle so attractive to people because there might be something different about you and you might feel odd, but that actually might be the thing that you shouldn't feel odd. You should feel unique. You should love your craft and hobby, whether that is reading tons of books or playing guitar and being a rock star. So the opening was the performers at Disney Studios. Now I was screaming in the living room. I thought it was genius that they had H.E.R come in as the librarian or the one with the book. Like it was such a nice little like touching moment, or like a torch being passed down. And of course, and then it shows Alan Menken playing and I was just screaming in the room going, oh my gosh, because yes, it took me out of the musical, the story, but again, the way that it was set up was we are here to celebrate the story and the creation of this movie. Another genius thing that they did was instead of, oh yeah, we're just watching the movie in between, sometimes they might introduce, hey, here's the scene that we created between Belle and her father, but you're looking at it as a storyboard rather than watching it as the cartoon. It's almost like we're seeing a show, but we're also seeing the behind the scenes of this movie. So I'm going to go ahead and go down like the different songs that they did and like some of my thoughts, and I would love to know yours. Like which one was your favorite? There was Belle. I loved how they started it at the outside of the studio and then they brought it inside live in front of an audience. I love that the set pieces were more of the drawing, the cartoon before it had the color on it. It also helped with the transition in between what was the movie and what was the live performance, and they used that quite nicely. I want the costumes to be its own thing when I talk about it because the costumes is probably my favorite thing about this show. We are in Belle, we are introduced, as I said, like of course H.E.R and Alan Menken, which is a huge thing. Oh my gosh, that guy's biceps, like I at a certain point, I was like, okay, LeFou, I think, is wearing a fat suit, which in my head, I wondered why, because I don't think he necessarily needed one, but, you know, they did. But then I was looking at Gaston's biceps, and I was like, did they put him in a muscle suit? But no, I think those were real. Like, call me a silly girl, because I was like, wow, that's impressive. I know that in one of the things they have, you know, I want much more than this provincial life. And that whole scene happened with all of the dancers. And I will say that this may be the performance that I was like, I could have done without. When seeing all the dancers come on, I was like, well, I guess it shows Belle's not alone. I thought it was cool to see sort of like her younger self with like a guitar and passed on to her, sort of playing that. I thought that was a cool moment. I guess I was laughing in my head because I was like, oh, this is the hill where it's like, it's the provincial life gales, where it's like, oh yeah, we usually come here at around 4 p.m. to talk about our life and how much we want more in it. Bye, Belle. I'm so sorry. Before that happened, we do see Maurice and the Wolves before that, and I like that a lot because it's very similar to the musical if you ever see it on stage. And I thought it was so cool how they used the camera, right? We talk about movie musicals and how they're done. I think another thing to think about is it's not just about performing it on stage, it's about performing it in front of a camera and having those camera angles help you propel the story and propel the scene as far as the mood and action. And again, the costumes, really cool. And by the way, I'm going through this through memory. I believe the next one is Gaston. I will say, in the beginning of this song, I found it a little lackluster, but then by the end of it, I was like, yes, because they were using the set brilliantly as far as the tables being moved and you know what it wasn't sold to me, and I think it was the gentleman that was playing LeFou. It just wasn't sold to me. Because LeFou, yeah, he's not that smart, but neither is Gaston. And it's a moment of him being like, what? No, you can't be down on yourself. I want you to see yourself the way that I see you. So even though I didn't find it as funny as I wished it was, I did find it really creative as far as like how they use the table and the sets and the dancing. And I do think that Gaston is the type of song that is such a spectacle. When he did I covered his hair, and that I was like, yes. Like, I wanted more of those moments to happen because it's so exaggerated and so silly. Like, that's what he finds his value in himself as far as like his fitness and his hair. That's another thing to point out is if you know the movie very well, you notice that a lot of the cartoon movie is like cut short so they could get into the performances. Again, really grateful for that. We have the whole like, here's the beast and he's introduced, and the costume, I think it was cool. Like, it was cool. I know that they didn't want to go down the path of like, here's, you know, what it looks like in the parks, and they didn't want to do it like they do in the like Broadway sort of musical version where it's a mask on him. I think in a way, it's not my favorite beast costume, I'll say that. But I can understand why it was important for people to see the man within the beast, which is Josh Groban. Let's see, what's the next big thing that happens? I think Be Our Guest happens. And at this point, I was like, okay, so we saw Lumiere, we saw Cogsworth and stuff, but we haven't seen Mrs. Potts. So I was like, when are we going to see Shania Twain? But, you know, be patient. And Be Our Guest happens. And when I heard that Martin Short was going to be Lumiere, I was like, how come this has never happened before? He is the perfect Lumiere. And then he started talking and I was thinking to myself, wow, the accent really comes and goes. I love Martin Short, and I feel like he wasn't doing his shortisms, if you know what I mean, until Be Our Guest happens, and he really started using that voice in a way that I was like, there he is. And I found myself laughing. And oh my gosh, the way that they used the table and the hands and the dancers, like, so good. I don't even want to talk about it too much because I really do want you to go and watch it in its entirety. They have their Guess Who's Here, Mrs. Potts, which again, the costumes. Listen, I played Mrs. Potts and I did not look like that. But yeah, so it was nice to see her introduction, which is funny in my head because, you know, this Mrs. Potts wasn't Cockney, she was country. So I was for it. I thought it was very well done. Now, ever so often, there is the symbolism of the rose. The rose isn't just a rose, it is a group of dancers, and like they are the petals. When you think of a rose, I think usually people interpret it as like more feminine, and it's like a ballerina and she's in red. So what was cool about this was it was a group of people that became the rose, and you might see it overhead. It shows that they're petals and they're all connected, but then they do a dance to see them, you know, go away. Something there which I was like, how cute were those kids as the birds? They were so cute. And this is the moment that they say this is when Belle falls in love with the Beast. I loved her costume. I loved I loved the set. I loved the way they made the Beast wag his tail. It was new and a bit alarming, and I was for it. The next thing is, of course, Beauty and the Beast, and Shania Twain comes out and sings it with Alan Menken on the piano. It was so sweet that they showed Angela Lansbury in her picture because she did die this year. As you know, I have done 2 videos on her. My first video was Driving Miss Daisy and watching her with James Earl Jones in my reaction, which made me cry. And then of course another one was her passing, and there's a video where I talk about her life and her history and what we can learn from her. So many people, like pop stars, have sang this song, but nothing will ever be better than Angela Lansbury. And I think it's because of the warmth in her voice. Like, you really do feel a sense like she's singing it to you. And also, I said it in my video trivia, the take that we got of her singing Beauty and the Beast was one take. That's the version that we hear in the cartoon. It was a lovely way to pay respect to the story and also Angela Lansbury. Then we get to the part of the story that, you know, this is when the Beast truly loves Belle, that he's able to let her go. And then the song Evermore happens, and Josh Groban comes out and sings that. Now, I'm going to say this, and it might not be a popular opinion, and that's okay. I don't like this song is because I know there's something better, which is If I Can't Love Her. I don't know what else to say except the song is just way better. The lyrics are more moving, and I like it more. You know what it is too? It's like Fetch. Like, stop trying to make Fetch happen. That's how I feel about this song. Now, I was wondering if they were going to do this song, which is Kill the Beast. They did. It was good. It was good. Like, it's a very propelling song of like the story. There wasn't anything in it where I was like, oh my gosh, this was amazing. It did its job, and it sounded great, and it was entertaining. So well done. And of course, then we get to the transformation of the Beast, and I thought it was very sweet to see, you know, the 3 performers, and then they have the closing of Josh Groban and her singing Beauty and the Beast, and she comes out with her guitar. At first I was like, oh my gosh, the fact she's playing and walking downstairs. I was like thoroughly impressed. I thought this was well done. I felt like I learned even more about Beauty and the Beast, and it was a beautiful love letter to this movie that was created 30 years ago. Again, the costumes, that might have been my favorite thing about the whole show. I think it's also something to understand about this show is how many people can connect with so many characters. Like, listen, Cogsworth, as a kid, I didn't get him. And now as an adult, I'm like, man, poor Cogsworth. Like, I get it now. The storyline is so good that it doesn't matter who comes in and out. There's always someone that we can connect to. That's why it's always interesting for me to see this story in different productions. It allows you to see, like, how do they see it? Like, what is their perspective putting this on? Anyways, darlings, that is sort of like my perspective and thoughts on the show. I would love to know yours. Like, what was your favorite? Or was there something where you thought, well, we could have lived without that, but who cares? We're entertained. As you might know, if you watch any of my other videos, I am currently in the UK. It is raining outside and I am staying warm, and I'm glad I got the VPN to watch the show. But yeah, anyways, without further further ado, take care, darling.